so I decided, hey, you know, I'm going to make some of these designs that I had thought about, you know, during my art knife making days, and I thought, you know, I'm just going to make some of them. I don't have any customers for them,
right?
You know, because all my customers were in the art knife realm. But I thought, you know, I'm just going to do it, and hey, you know, I'm an artist. If I don't sell them, I'll keep them. And
yeah, right.
So I got back and made some of my first designs in the tactical folder era.
And so this puts us at what year around?
Probably 96.
96-ish or so?
8, yeah, probably right around in there.
And what were some of those first designs? Something that we would recognize now, or did they kind of go by?
Yeah. I mean, it was a progression. Some of my first ones were actually a little bit progressed from the art knife designs that I did, clip point Bowie style blades and stuff like that. I think like the first model that I was a UTF, and there's just a few of them, not too many of them out there. And it kind of, a lot of that, that era went into the Fire Tac series, which was probably my first more major, you know, series of folder, tactical folder.
So it's kind of, those kind of evolved out of those early experimentations.
Yeah, a lot of that evolved out from there. And that was also the time period when I had my first collaboration with a knife company, which was Gerber with the Game Pro, which was a folding hunter. That came a little bit later on in the Fire Tac era, but that kind of started. I started doing more designs and stuff.
Right.
And then right around that time period, I also joined the fire department, local volunteer fire department, and that actually had a big impact on a lot of my design work because it forced me to use some of these knives really hard in some areas that maybe a person, a regular customer just carrying a pocket knife may not find themselves. So I started to find some design limitations from some of them hard use, you know, call outs and stuff like that. We're a pretty busy volunteer fire department, so we have a lot of calls. And I became a level 3 firefighter, which is a full-time career firefighter level, as well as an EMTB, and so I was on the squad as well as fire, and we have a lot of accidents, and which is a good way to test out, you know, what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
And through a lot of those experiences was born a lot of design elements that led up into the Flame series, which then led into the XM18, and as well as a lot of the designs that I did for Gerber, the Hinderer Rescue. That's a real popular knife with Gerber. Every feature on that knife was born out of different calls that I was on. Right. Different accidents to where, you know, gee, it'd be great if I had this feature on the knife. You know, and I figured if I see that, then all the other firefighters out there would see the benefits of these features. Right. And one of the features on my rescue is a O2 bottle wrench. Oxygen bottles that we use on the squad, they have like a pin, and you have a wrench that you open the bottle with. Well, the wrench usually is attached to the bottle with a ball chain or something like that. Right.
Except when you really need it.
When you really need it, it's not there.
Then somebody took the damn wrench or something.
Or it falls off. And I was on a call where I had to shimmy down about 100 feet down a bank in a ravine, and it was a serious accident. And I get down to the bottom of the ravine with the O2 bottle, and no wrench. So, you know, and the patients really needed the O2 bottle. So, the only thing I had was my knife. I had a knife on me. That was the only tool that I could think of. Right. So I got my knife out, and of course I didn't have, you know, any slot in it that had an O2 bottle. So I took the back, it was an open back knife, and I jammed it down on the top of that peg, and was able to get the
using
bottle,
right.
you know. Then I thought,
light bulb time, right?
Idea. And now when I went to a lot of the fire shows with Gerber when we promoted the knife, everybody that would come, they would look at the knife, you know, and they're the firefighters, and they would see that O2 bottle wrench slot, and they were like, whoever did this knife has been there and done that.
Right.
You know, and because nobody else had thought of it, because, well, they aren't a firefighter. So that gave me, as a designer, a little bit more of an advantage because, you know, instead of being a knife designer, talking to a firefighter, hey, what do you guys need?
Right.
You know, and then them telling the designer, okay, well, we need this. Well, by the time you get from the source, you go to the designer designs it, and it goes to engineering, and then from there, everything gets watered down.
Yeah,
something gets missed.
A lot of cooks in the kitchen there,
Yeah, something gets missed, and but this, everything, you know, we cut out all the middlemen, you know, and so just like my the seatbelt cutter on that knife was
that's
different.
actually one of those. You know what? Bear with me just a second here. I'm gonna hang on, folks. Just kind of grab one from the mighty archives over there. So yeah, this was the guy, right?
Yes, I mean, this is the Hinderer Rescue, and this is the O2 bottle wrench slot that we were talking about. Very simple. I mean, when I thought of it, that was an easy thing. That's like, okay, just mill a slot in the handle. You have an O2 bottle slot. This actually will also fit on some other fittings that different fire departments find in their response area. So that's just kind of an extra. But this seatbelt cutter, I'm going to close the blade. The seatbelt cutter is another. This seatbelt cutter is different than a lot of other rescue knives, and a lot of other rescue knives. And I'm not here to bash anybody's design or anything like that. This is just my interpretation. And this is my explanation of why I made it like this, as opposed to, you know, a slot that's cut into the handle that you see on some rescue knives and things like that. The reason why I did it like this is, you know, and a lot of times you'll see somebody demonstrating a rescue tool.
Right. Okay,
it could be a knife, it could be a window punch, it could be whatever, and they're always demonstrating it on a car, like in a junkyard or whatever, but the car is always like on four wheels, the sun's shining, it's 65, 70 degrees, perfect conditions, and they'll say, see, this works. Well, we don't go on calls like that. We go on calls at 3 a.m. with a car overturned in a wood-filled ditch,
and it's 20 below,
and it's 20 below, and it's raining, okay, and you can't see anything. And that's what I thought of when I designed this seatbelt cutter, because a lot of the knives you have to actually guide the seatbelt into the cutter to cut it. Okay, guess what? That takes two hands.
And you're wearing gloves.
And you can't see.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted a seatbelt cutter that you could do one-handed without even seeing the seatbelt.
Yeah.
So what I did was I made it to where when you deploy the seatbelt cutter, you can actually take this knife blindly. You can even be doing patient assessment on the patient with this hand and be able to reach up, and you're trapping the seatbelt with the back of the knife,
which flows right into
the cutter. And of course, it's completely safe. You're not going to accidentally. It's really bad if we accidentally cut.
Like sever their jugular while you're cutting.
The whole deal with using a blade, opening the blade and cutting the seatbelt, you got to be very, very careful not to cut the patient. So that's why I designed it that way, so that you can be able to blindly trap. You don't even need to see the seatbelt. You can just reach up there and feel it, and be able to run the seatbelt right down through across the back of the knife and cut it. And there's another company that is doing this type of seatbelt cutter now. So obviously they found that is a good way to design a seatbelt cutter. But some of the other features, of course, I have the obligatory
gotta have a glass breaker.
Window glass breaker. but also, you know, in the design. And the reason why I'm kind of going over this, I know this isn't an interview on the Gerber rescue.
Right.
Okay.
Well, no, but I think it's good to give people a perspective of where you know, the inspiration behind designs and kind of that practicality and pragmatic reasoning.
Because all of this,
you know,
thinking that I did to go into this design goes into all of my knives.
Right.
You know, this is stuff that where I've been there and done it in that aspect. This is why I did it this way, not because, well, I drew it up on CAD and it looked cool.
Right.
You know, no, this is why I did it, because I was in this situation and found that this would work better. Just like the seatbelt cutter, you know, that came from a call. This came from a call. You know, the glass breaker, I actually, and again, we're a busy fire department, but you know, I don't break an auto window on every accident. You know.
Well, you should.
Well, yeah.
Cars already broke.
It's fun. You know, especially those brand new Corvettes.
They're going to meet the deductible. You might as well smash some stuff. So.
Yeah, sometimes we want to do that. You know, but you know, it's just nice to have it. You know. So anyway, the other thing, of course, the blade. One thing that always really got me was when I see sharp pointed rescue knives.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. You don't want a sharp point, because again, if we were to accidentally cut a patient, that would be bad.
Bad juju.
That would be very bad.
Thanks. I had a mild concussion and now I'm bleeding out. Thanks.
Yeah.
You know, right?
Yeah, and plus, you know, you get a patient into the back of the squad, they've already been through a very traumatic experience, you know, and then they're laying on the cot, and they look up and they see the very friendly EMT whip out a knife with a sharp point and say, you know, don't worry. Yeah, well, her heart rate is going to. So that was the one thing that was a must. It still drives me crazy when I see rescue knives with sharp points. I actually seen a company had a dagger as a rescue knife.
Oh, it's absolutely. You never know when you might need to.
Yeah. So even on this, the thumb stud, it's actually like this thumb stud is a three-piece thumb stud, and I made it to where it's really big, so obviously you can be able to open a knife with turnout gloves on.
Right.
But the most important thing with a rescue knife that you carry when you go on a scene is not opening it, is closing it. Because when you open it, you have a potential problem with the blade. So if you can't close it, what are you going to do? You're going to set the knife down because you need to get this guy out of the car or whatever, or lady or whatever, and somebody's going to get cut. So we designed, and I collaborated with Gerber on this. We designed a lock on the outside of the lock release on the outside of the knife, where you can be able to release the lock with turnout gloves on.
So it's kind of like a remotely disengaged liner lock, basically.
Yeah. So, but again, all of that is the thought process that I put into my using knives. Everything has a reason. There's a purpose, and going back to the time period when I joined the fire department, it changed a lot of my thinking in my designs.
Right.
No longer was I designing something, to make it look good, as much as, okay, now I'm being infused with a design process of it has to function for the intended purpose, and everything, all the features are there for a specific reason.
Right.
However, I took my art knife days and infused it into, so you're getting a mending of practicality, hard use knife that looks good.
Yeah, that's still.
Yeah, it's
because there's still a pride. Even guys that are very pragmatic and have a tool, there still is a certain pride of ownership in something. You still want. There's the utility. Otherwise we'd all be using like Soviet-looking,
absolutely.
Clunky tools. So.
Absolutely. So I infused some of the flowing lines, and ergonomics is a big thing for me, because I found again. When you're using a knife hard, such as I had a call where I had to cut away a seat material around the post of the seat so we can get the jaws in there, and real tough stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't have gloves on, which I did at the time, But even with gloves, you have hard points on a knife, you're going to feel it. You're really using it hard. It's problematic, you know. So you have to, you want something that's going to feel good, otherwise it's not going to get used.
Right, right.
You know, so all of that kind of came together with the XM18.
So at this time you're kind of running fire tax and
running fire tax, and the next model that I started to veer towards the design of the XM18 was the Flame.
The Flame series, right?
And the Flame is in essence, the XM18 is a Flame,
right?
But with some other things beefed up and things like that to make it even more beefy. As far as beefy, but not over, you know, over too much. Again, it's a working knife. So,
well, that brings us up kind of to the point of, you know, where Hinderer knives started and kind of into the big transitional period as we kind of moved from the art into the tool or tactical genre.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break here and come back for part 2, and we'll sit down and talk some more with Rick about the XM18, which has obviously kind of become your signature, so to speak. And we'll talk about kind of we've got the inspirations behind those designs, but talk about where they are now and where things are going, and also what exactly goes into building an XM18 here at Hinderer Knives. So stay tuned. We'll be back with part 2 soon. See ya.